The Los Angeles Rams sitting at 5-6, hitting the road again. New Orleans Saints play host at 4-7. This game takes place at the Caesars Superdome, 1:05 p.m. kickoff time. 05, all right, that is an important number there, as those early games probably not over yet. So if you're going out for it, hey, bribe a bartender, get that bad boy switched. This game does kick off on Fox with Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Megan O'Leary on the call. We are in the yellow zones for this, so if you are in that zone, you can just flip on some bunny ears and check out this game. But other than that, looking for other ways. There's always one person. There's always one person that's like, I use this to watch the game. It's like, well, then this distribution map isn't for you. All right, then just pretend the whole thing's yellow for you. All right, or wherever you're at then. If you are heading out to the game, obviously it is a dome, so weather not going to be a concern, but in New Orleans, it's going to be a high of 61 on Sunday, so looking pretty nice, looking at upper 50s throughout the game if you are headed out, so probably going to be all right, especially, like I said, going into the dome, but for you tailgaters out there, should be actually a pretty nice day out in New Orleans. For you bettors, the Rams -3. I have seen that change in some, depending on where you're looking. -3, though, for the Rams. -146 on the money line. 49.5 for your over-under. In this game, the Rams will be rocking the white jerseys, which takes us to our pants picks, where myself and Payo Time are going with the royal pants, and we do have Rams House going with the soul pants. I will say that this year, it feels like every time we wear the soul pants, nothing good happens. I don't have the numbers in front of me to back that up right now, but maybe we can start talking about that as the year goes on, about pants and how important they are. All right. Pants picks. Drop yours below as well. They usually drop them on Thursday for us. I don't know if the holiday will impact the announcement of the pants picks. Go back to the 24 hours, Rams, all right? That's when it was more fun, all right? We don't have to know pants 4 days out, all right? 24 hours is perfect, all right? That's plenty of time. But December football, by the way, we're in it, dude. We are in it. December 1st is when this game happens, which is absolutely awesome, all right? This is where we find out who we are. Historically speaking, the Rams, with Sean McVay, have played well in December. I don't know if you remember a little bit of a Super Bowl run, but the Rams didn't win a game in November, and then December turned it on, dude. It only won the one game, and that was in overtime against the 49ers, a team that the Rams then beat a few weeks later in the NFC Championship game. So went on a run come December time. Last year, the Rams were 4-1 in December, with that one loss coming to Baltimore in overtime on a punt return for a touchdown. The Rams played the hell out of the Ravens that day, and I say probably could have won that game. We were right in there. Just one thing happens different, and you can pull off a win there. So obviously a great stretch for the Rams last year in December. Hopefully we can get something very similar this year. And 5 December games last year the Rams had. Saints are coming off a bye, so another extended break for a team that the Rams will be playing. As this last week, the Philadelphia Eagles, they had come off a Thursday game. So mini bye there, a real full-on bye week for the Saints coming into this game. And also haven't been on the road since November 3rd. Have not had a road game since November 3rd. Their next road game, December 8th. So it will be the following week after this game. But just been cozy, dude. Just chilling in New Orleans. Just not having to do anything, not have to go anywhere. It was like COVID rules for the New Orleans Saints, just hanging out at home this whole time. So very cozy over there. So maybe a little too cozy though. We'll come in and do the Big Brother thing where you just come up and mess up their hair and then run away or something. And metaphorically speaking, give them a loss is what I'm trying to say. Saints are also 1 game behind the Rams in the wild card race and 2 games out of their division. So obviously still very much in the mix there. The Saints have won their last 2, but before that, lost 7 straight. So, yeah, they won 2 to open the season, lost a bunch of games, fired their coach. They've won 2 straight since that has happened, and that was before the bye week. History of this matchup, this is the 80th all-time meeting between the Rams and the Saints. The Rams do lead the all-time series, 44-35. Rams won last year, December 21st, just ahead of Christmas, which is awesome, 22-30. That game took place in L.A., and since returning to Los Angeles, the Rams do lead the Saints 4-3. Also, next year, the Rams do play the NFC South and will be hosting the New Orleans Saints, so we will get them again next year. First ever game between these two came just a few months after both of my parents were born, man. That's crazy. That was September 17th of 1967. Rams won that 27-13 and did win the first 4 against the New Orleans Saints. It's been very streaky against the Saints overall since, obviously dating back to the 60s. So I will say this about this game as well before we get into the matchup here is that the Saints will forever feel cheated by the Rams. The Saints fans are always going to hate the Rams a little bit. For all of the fans who watched the NFC Championship game in the 2018 season in January of 2019, they hate us forever. Until the rest of time, they are not going to be fans of the Rams. They especially, I think they feel mostly cheated, not just because of the missed pass interference call. It's been long enough. I feel confident saying, yeah, that was pass interference. All right. I also said it right when it happened, though. I have a video of that where we were watching the NFC Championship game, and I was like, that was definitely pass interference. I'm glad I didn't call it. So it's a good thing I wasn't there or anything, But either way, I think that ultimately you get that, and then the Rams only scoring 3 points in the Super Bowl. I think that the Saints are just sitting there like, oh, man, we could have done better than that. And maybe not. Who knows? But either way, that game was obviously, that's a very emotional situation, and the Saints, their fans very much still are mad about it. And I mean, whatever, rightfully so, but also it's been a few years, guys. We can't change it. Okay, it's time to move on. All right. But also, Saints have an interim head coach. That's why they've kind of been turning it around. We do see that happen from time to time. And Saints are a very hard team to assess because of that. Coming off a bye week, though, does make it tough. Obviously, an extended break on their side makes the matchup that much harder, as rightfully so. We see that all the time. The Rams benefited from having a bye week as well. It's unfortunate when you get so many teams off of extended breaks, though. Let's take a look at the matchup in this one. We'll start with the Rams offense against the Saints defense. And in total offense, the Rams are about middle of the road, ranking 17th, but the Saints defense is 31st overall, so not great on that world there. Throwing the rock, Matthew Stafford and company ranking 9th, and this is where the Saints do have the bulk of their struggles on defense, as they are 30th against the pass. Running the ball 26th for the Rams. That does feel way too low considering their roster and abilities in that world, but the Saints 25th in giving up ground yards. And points being put up, the Rams are putting up a little over 21 a game. That's 20th in the league, and 22 given up for the Saints defense. That's tied for 13th. Third down conversion rates, Rams dropped here as they are now 31st after going 0-8 last week, and the Saints defense about middle of the road, giving up 36.4%. That is 15th. The Rams offensive line obviously coming off quite the rough day, but for the first time this season, we will see our top 5. It's a top 5 that we didn't think was our top 5, but turns out Jonah, his injuries, stuff like that, when he came back in, wasn't the guy we wanted him to be. In fairness, he was just coming back off of injury. I still think he's a very good player, and I would like to see him get in there and get some continuity, because we know that he's a good player. We've seen it happen. He's been in the NFL before. This isn't his first rodeo, man. So I think that if there were some other injuries, that Jonah Jackson would be able to come in and hopefully get that rolling. But Bro Limmer, man, out here. He's absolutely killing it. So obviously it looks like he is part of our best 5 in a continuity sense, for sure, part of our best 5. And this is going to be the first time this season that we will see all of those guys together. So we'll have Jackson, Avila, Limmer, Dotson, Havenstein. Boom, that's our O-line. I love to see it. Sorry about your defensive tackles and stuff like that. They're going to get pushed back, bro. Unlikely for Higbee to play, by the way. And he is back at practice, which is nice. So hopefully that will kind of translate into maybe Colby Parkinson having a bit of a bigger day if he's able to. I don't know what's going to happen in practice. All right. But either way, I'm excited to get Higbee back there. I will say this as well. Kyren, he might start losing some reps to Corum. This is about the time of the season where we should start seeing that split be a little bit more even. A little bit of 12 carries here, 12 carries here. Who's got it? And then as we get into the thick of the playoff race and the division race and into the playoffs, hopefully we'll have somebody kind of slotted in there, because let's face it, Kyren is a very, very good running back, but he's having some issues right now holding on to the football. And if that's going to be an issue right now, then maybe Blake should be getting some more reps. And again, I'm not a Kyren hater in the least. I love Kyren Williams. He threw me a football against the Packers. That was awesome. That's as cool as you think it is when you're watching those videos. It's awesome. It wasn't even a great throw, but I nailed the catch. Thanks, Kyren. But he's a great player, man. But he's in a bit of a slump right now, and I don't think there's any denying that. He's got to hold on to the football. So when we can see him get better, holding on to the football, then I'm back full on, on the Kyren train. But right now, I do think it's worth it to see a little bit more of Blake Corum. Just carrying the rock, man. See if he can hold on to that ball. That's what we need right now. We need to limit those turnovers. And if Kyren is a person that we feel like could be a risk for turnovers, which clearly he is right now, then I do think it's time to shift around those numbers just a little bit. Best matchup on the offensive side is going to be this top 5 O-line, dude. I'm going to be talking about a lot against that Saints front. Again, first time all of our starters are healthy and in. But Cameron Jordan, Chase Young, Carl Granderson, solid front for the New Orleans Saints, so obviously not a cakewalk for the Rams. Pete Warner and Demario Davis, also strong combo. And getting the ground game rolling should be the focus. And I think that having the offensive line together for the first time and tell the big dudes, hey, push people back, usually things go well when that is the case, all right? And they're able to get that rolling. So I would look for that to be a thing with a little bit more of Blake Corum. Let's take a look at the 3 to C on the Rams offensive side. I'm going to start with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, man. So it's not that I don't think that Kool-Aid McKinstry is a good corner, because he is. But I really like Kupp in this matchup, man. I'll be honest. I really like it. Puka, by the way, also has a favorable matchup. I'm going Kupp here, though, because Puka has been on fire. Puka's been racking up numbers like crazy, while Kupp seems to be more of a reliable as far as his usage in the offense recently. So obviously Puka, he's got a good matchup too. We fully expect Puka to go off every week. And when he doesn't, we're like, what happened? Even like an 89-yard game, you're like, something's up with Puka, man. Which is really exciting. But Kupp, I think he's been a little bit, numbers-wise, he's been more inconsistent. But he is playing really, really good football. He's obviously an incredible talent. So there's that part. But I'm feeling a big day out of Cooper Kupp in New Orleans. It'll be loud, and the 9 to 10 connection there is going to be, it's going to need to show up to keep those volumes down. We saw that in that NFC Championship game. That's the loudest game I've ever watched, and I realize that that's a weird thing to say. My eyes have never experienced that much loud. You know what I mean? But I seeing like Witt have to come all the way over, in front of somebody. Gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts that I don't remember the left guard's name from that game. Just so you know who I am as a person. But so he had to lean all the way over and stuff like that, and it's like, gosh, that's rough, man. So intense, man. But keeping that 9 and dime connection going, keep those levels down. Speaking of the offensive line, Big Rob, man. Big Rob's returned to the lineup, and I think we will feel it. I like McClendon. Not going to say that he's a bad player by any means, but he had a tough task last week. All right, those are some very good pass rushers that he was trying to go against, and technique was beating Warren McClendon last week in a situation where I don't feel like Big Rob would have got as much as Warren McClendon did. Big Rob, an incredible right tackle. Running off right side might be a little bit of the play, as Avila did have, like we talked about, a little bit of a rough week last week. Blake Corum. Yeah, putting him in here, man. I do not dislike Kyren whatsoever. I have no negative emotions towards Kyren Williams outside of that stomach drop that I get when I see the ball hit the ground. That is a very terrible time, but ultimately I'm a big fan of Kyren. So I'd like to see him be able to turn it around and stuff like that. But I've got nothing negative to say about him. But I'm getting very excited to see Blake Corum, and I think that is important. Corum extremely similar to Williams, and I do think that could be bad news for Kyren if Blake does take advantage of his reps the rest of this season. That could spell the end of Kyren Williams. We're quick to move on from guys. We don't feel like we need them to succeed. We do move on from guys rather quick. I don't think that's impossible. That happens to Kyren if Blake can kind of start going off. Rams really should have a change of pace guy, like we saw Philadelphia. They've got that in Gainwell to Barkley. but Blake Corum and Kyren Williams are the same guy. So sometimes you can't tell. Like when the play is happening, if you didn't watch them switch or like really pay attention to who's in, sometimes you don't know. And the announcers do it all the time. Oh, Kyren Williams up the middle for 6 yards. Oh, that's Blake Corum. Like, that happens. That's happened all year. So obviously they run very, very similar. And I think that's also another reason why like Kyren just, I don't know. You may not be as safe on this roster as that goes, but having a change of pace guy to Blake potentially in the future is what we might be looking at here. But either way, I think that Blake does need to get some more reps. Not necessarily taking everything from Kyren, but evening that out a little bit more, I think is very realistic and reasonable. And the advantage here, so, I mean, Saints defense, they're second to last in the league when it comes to yards given up. Rams offensive line back together for the first time this year. When they had blocking last week, the Rams offense was very much the Rams offense. We were hitting those plays that we normally hit when we had blocking, which was not all the time. Just didn't happen as much as we wanted it to happen, obviously. But this front for the Saints isn't as good. I think that the Rams do have the advantage here when it comes to the Rams offense versus the Saints defense. Flipping over to the other side. Let's go with the Saints offense against the Rams defense. Here is where the Saints are almost a top 10 unit. They rank 11th in the league in total yards, 26th ranked defense for the Rams in total yards given up. Passing the football, middle of the road for Derek Carr and company, 17th in the league, but that is pretty in line with the Rams defense, which ranks 19th. Just a 2-yard average difference between those two, so about that should be what we expect from this game. Running the rock, top 10 unit for the New Orleans Saints as they've got a great combo at running back. They are 9th in the league. And against the run, the Rams are 28th. Definitely took a dent in that bad boy this last week. Those averages definitely got pulled up from a week ago. Points being put up, almost 24 for the Saints offense. That's 11th. And just over 24 for the Rams defense. That is 22nd. On third down, 39% of third down conversions for the Saints. That is 14th. Rams giving up a little over 40. That is 19th in the league. So, obviously, this matchup here, there's, the passing game. The Rams are right in line there. And if you just look at averages, like on points and stuff like that, technically, we're looking at a Saints 24-21 win. All right. So you bettors out there, if you like those numbers enough to put that on there. But that'll also mess up with your with the spreads and all that stuff. So you gotta be picky about it, man. Gotta be picky about it. But obviously the Rams had a rough day against the run last week, and it doesn't get easier this week with Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams running the rock for the Saints. I should look at the injury reports here, but it's so early. It's Wednesday, man. A lot of things happen over the course of the week, so not going to dive too much into that right now. Offensive line, not as good as Philly as well, which could be really good news for the Rams front, who, let's face it, got a little bullied last week. Trenches were just not in line for the Rams last week, and that was felt on the defensive side as well. There were plays where the Rams were able to get in there. Obviously, Fisk getting in there, making a big play. Stuff like that, would love to see it, but just not consistent enough. There was too many times when Jalen Hurts was just able to chill back there, man. But also, Jalen Hurts not a statue. Derek Carr's not as mobile. He's got a worse offensive line, so we should be able to get in there. Should I say that word? Because who knows? Obviously, each NFL game is very much its own feel here. On your best matchup, as far as the Saints offense, Rams defense, I'm going with Christian Rozeboom and Omar Speights versus Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. Rozeboom set a single game career high in tackles last week with 12 against the Philadelphia Eagles, and had some plays where he was absolutely flying around. Obviously, some missed tackles. I don't want to just pretend those didn't exist, but there was one play pretty early in the game. I don't remember exactly when it was, where ball snapped, Jalen takes that one step back and then starts moving. By the time he was already moving forward, Rozeboom had already seen it, dude, and he punished Hurts, man. Laid a shoulder into him. It was a clean hit, absolutely awesome. But Rozeboom, he's been flying around. Since the bye week, I think Rozeboom has been awesome. I realize that there are a certain percentage of fans who already have their minds made up about Christian Roseboom and how they feel about him. But I'm here to tell you, dude. Okay, first of all, I was one of like the last ones to be like, all right, and I could acknowledge that he was playing poorly, but I also like Christian Roseboom. I think he's a good player, and I think that we're seeing that unfold right now. He's getting better right now, and we're seeing some really interesting stuff. I just kind of, again, I challenge you. I say that loosely because you don't have to do anything I say, but when I rewatched this game, man, I do watch Roseboom a lot on my rewatches, and the dude's playing awesome, simply put. And if you are gonna sit here and say that he's not, then you are kind of ignoring him or paying too much attention to his bad plays. But guess what? They've all got bad plays. Steve Avila got ripped up this week, man. Like obviously. Quentin Lake, I think, had a rough day against Philadelphia. He was close on a lot of things, but had a rough day against Philadelphia. We've seen Puka have bad days, Stafford, you know what I mean? So, like, obviously, Christian Roseboom with the tackles, that's something that that had been a problem earlier in the year, and that was against Saquon, but Saquon's hard to tackle, all right? And basically what I'm just trying to tell you is that I think Christian Roseboom is playing some really, really good football right now, and I don't think the fans have really fully turned all the way around on Roseboom yet. Omar Spates, though, still also killing it. I thought he was going to have a bit of a bigger game against Philly. He was from Philly, grew up an Eagles fan, stuff like that, but that didn't happen. But Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, obviously that's a tough task as well. So they're both great weapons in not just the run game, but also the pass game. So these two players, Roseboom and Spates, I think that they're going to have to really focus in on that and pay attention to that. So we saw that a few times with Saquon, where he would stay in the block, and then once he got beat, then he just kind of turns around. He's available for a pass. So that's something that I hope comes up on tape, and we are able to avoid that this week against guys who are very good in the pass game as well. 3 to C on the Rams defensive side. We can go with Quentin Lake. Captain Q had a bit of a rough day last week. So close to so many great plays, but that just ended up being not great plays. There was a pass interference that was a bit of a phantom call. I didn't really see it when rewatching. That unfortunate touchdown was just barely too late. And by rule, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not mad about it still, but by rule, that is a touchdown. So, I mean, credit where credit's due. But Q seems too level-headed to let that leak into multiple games. The whole thing of, like, don't let the Eagles beat you twice. I think reporters that were asking questions about that earlier in the week, I don't think that they... maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it feels like they misunderstood it of, like, don't let that Eagles game stay in your head this week. Like, don't let them beat you twice, you know, like that's over now. The game's done. Now we're on Saints, you know what I mean? So I think that the Q is too level-headed to let that happen. So I do expect a better game from him this time. And also, he's a captain. He needs to rally the troops after a rough outing. That's it. Defensive leaders will be big this week. And speaking of big defensive leaders, Kobe Turner's next up here. As Rams got gashed up front last week, let Barkley set an Eagles record, most rushing yards by an Eagle in a single game, so that's real fun. Turner might be in just his second season, but he's got the C on his jersey. It's time to be awesome about it, all right? So Turner has to be the one to really step it up and make those plays. He did, and I will say that there was some when the Barkley train started really rolling. Fisk getting pulled out for Bobby Brown was such a good move because Bobby Brown was able to make a lot of really good plays. And it's not that Fisk is bad at all. Excuse me. But I do think that there was some plays where he was just getting washed out. And I do think his size did get a little bit, it was a factor in there. But I think that Kobe Turner and Bobby Brown, excuse me. Ugh, I don't know what's happening in my face right now. But either way, I think that they did a great job. But Braden Fisk, I wanted to see a little bit more, but obviously he had the big sack and stuff like that. And he was getting in there, but it did seem a little bit few and far between. So there. And also, Braden Fisk is going to be my last on the 3 to C here because of that a little bit. So he didn't get onto the field for the tush push. And so I guess the coaches disagreed with me entirely on that. I thought that him being strong and kind of stout, that he would be able to be an asset in that world. But we went with Tyler Davis, Kobe Turner, and Bobby Brown on those plays, which, I mean, so be it. I'm not in the team meetings and stuff like that. But I just wanted to see Braden Fisk in that. I thought that he would be a good addition there. So that wasn't the case. But he did do some pretty cool stuff this week and is officially what I would consider an underrated defensive rookie of the year candidate? Yeah, dude, I'm talking about it. He's got more sacks than the edge rusher, Jared Verse. I think it's time we start having this conversation. He has more sacks than Verse from the inside. Definitely has gotten some help on some, but dude gets in the backfield, all right? He's the little bowling ball that gets back there, man. And get a statue this week in Derek Carr could mean that Fisk is in for a truly big week, as I'm liking the matchup for Braden Fisk going into this one. So on the defensive side, as far as we look at the advantage goes, the Saints offense, certainly not a bad unit. They can definitely run the rock as well. But the Rams defense coming off a week, they got gashed. I'm sure that'll be emphasis this week. I do expect a stronger performance from this Rams defense based on what happened last week. Those explosive plays obviously gotcha. And just too many times where it was just like too super close to making a play and then it not happening. And that goes down to everything. That goes down to an almost blocked punt, the defensive pass interference, that touchdown by A.J. Brown. Like, stuff like that was like, it was so close. And then even on some of those big runs, that first Barkley big run to start the second half, if Christian Roseboom takes this step instead of this step, he's maybe in position to make a great tackle. So obviously it was one of those things. But I would say on the ground, the Saints do have the advantage here, but I do like the Rams against the pass in this matchup. Let's take a look at the connections here. Former Rams who are now on the Saints. We have John Benton. We have Matt Giordano. We also have senior defensive assistant Peter Guinta, and also pass rush specialist Brian Young. All of those members of the Saints were part of the St. Louis Rams, none on the LA Rams. And we also have no former Saints who are on the Rams now. Keep those dweebs out of here, dude. Hell yeah. All right. And some connections here in the NFL. D-Rob and Christian Roseboom, they played in Kansas City with Tyrann Mathieu, Kalen Saunders, Willie Gay Jr., and Tona... Oh, man. You know who I'm talking about. All right. I try to be name guy. I try to nail those every time. I can't even guess. I don't even have to guess. I'd have to look it up. So sorry, Tona. Jimmy G, he took over quarterback for Derek Carr for the Raiders, so they didn't play there together, but did have a bit of a connection there. Jonah Jackson played in Detroit with running back Jamal Williams. Neville Gallimore, I like this guy a lot, man. He played in Dallas with Cedric Wilson Jr. and John Ridgway III. Hunter Long played in Miami with Cedric Wilson Jr. Cam Curl played in Washington with Chase Young and John Ridgway III. Darius Williams, D-Will, played in Jacksonville with Trey Herndon and Kevin Austin Jr. And Jimmy G again, he played in San Francisco with wide receiver Dante Pettis. College connections here. John Johnson and Hunter Long played at Boston College with Will Harris. DK, Davis Allen, and Tyler Davis all played at Clemson with defensive tackle Brian Breesy. Puka Nacua played at BYU with tight end Dallin Holker. Kyron Williams played at Notre Dame with defensive end Isaiah Foskey and wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr. Jonah Jackson played at Ohio State with linebacker Pete Warner. He played there with Chase Young as well, and wide receiver Chris Olave. Bunch of connections there for Ohio State. Neville Gallimore, love that guy. He played at OU with Spencer Rattler. Jordan Whittington played at Texas with Jalen Ford. Bobby Brown played at Texas A&M with Eric McCoy and Jacob Caboti. And Jacob Hummel played at Iowa State with tight end Michael Jacobson. Pretty cool stuff there. Let's take a look at the milestones here. Sean McVay still needs just one regular season win to pass John Robinson for most regular season wins in franchise history. And I got to say, first of all, John Robinson, rest in peace. And second of all, doing this against the Saints just feels right. I don't even know how to explain that. I don't know how to explain the emotion that Sean McVay breaking a Rams franchise win record in the regular season against the Saints somehow just feels accurate. I don't even know if that makes any sense. All right? I don't know. Cooper Kupp, all right, he is officially going into his 100th NFL game this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. He is currently tied with Antonio Brown for second most receptions by a player in their first 100 games, meaning that he will be in second by himself, passing Antonio Brown, and he does need 3 receptions this week. Has to happen this week. This is his 100th game to pass both Brown and Keenan Allen for the most receptions in a player's first 100 career games. How wild is it, by the way, a little bit of a sidebar here, that Antonio Brown, I forget that Antonio Brown was like a real sick receiver early in his career, because now he's got no marbles left. Where are all of his marbles? I have no idea. He's lost his mind, but obviously incredible player early in his career, and then, just kind of dwindled down. And I don't know the cause of that, and I'm not going to speculate on the cause of that. I just think that Antonio Brown needs to stay away from the NFL now, and that's awesome. Really love what he did out there early. Those Pittsburgh years were kind of fun to watch and stuff. But now, man, just stay out of here, man. We don't need get out of here. Moving on. Rob Havenstein. If Rob Havenstein starts, which we do think that he will pass Todd Light for the 10th most career starts in franchise history. Rather cool there. Braden Fisk passed Byron Young, Robert Quinn, and Aaron Donald. You might have heard those names. They're pretty good. They passed them for the most sacks by a Ram in their first 11 career starts. So yeah, or games. Their first 11 games, dude. He's got more sacks than Byron Young, Quinn, and Donald individually in their first 11 games. That's so crazy to me. I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. And Braden Fisk, man, I'm telling you, underrated for Defensive Rookie of the Year, man. I'm trying to put that into the universe a little bit. And also maybe I'm just trying to lie a little bit of a spark under Jared Verse. Dude, where you at? All right. You're on the edge, man. You're on the edge. And also Darius Williams. He passed Hall of Fame safety Aeneas Williams for 14th most passes defended in franchise history. So creeping up the list there. That is your game preview as the Rams hit the road against the New Orleans Saints this Sunday for some Week 13 action. And again, it's going to be televised on Fox. Hopefully you got the long weekend. Hopefully this is kind of how you wrap up your weekend, your long weekend before getting back to work on Monday with a big fat Rams dub. Fill that belly with a big fat Rams dub. Hell yes.